Hello and welcome to another episode of B2B E-commerce Integrated. My name is Arno and I'm the Chief Product Officer at Sana Commerce. And today we have in the show Jason Liu, who is the IT Manager of MNI Direct. And MNI Direct is a wholesaler or B2B company specialized in professional landscape trade. In other words, they are supplying, for example, grass to sport fields and so on and so on. He shares some great lessons and some nice insights, so please stay tuned because it's really, really nice talk. For example, why Magento didn't work out for them for their needs to run a B2B e-commerce and how they transition from a legacy and on-premise ERP system to Microsoft Business Central Cloud. What tips he has to make that transition. And I believe the most interesting part is how they succeeded in B2B e-commerce by not automating everything. So a lot of prospects or customers say to me, okay, we cannot do B2B e-commerce because we cannot place an order or whatsoever. So we are not going to do anything with B2B e-commerce. But there is so many things that you can automate or that you can solve in that journey. And Jason will explain how they did that with MNI Direct. So which make them really, really successful. So yeah, let's introduce our guest. So today we have in the show Jason Liu from MNI Direct. So Jason, welcome.
Nice to be here. It's awesome.
Thank you. So Jason, let's start right at it. So can you explain, please, to our listeners more about your background?
Yes. So I have a degree in business economics, and I have served in both the military and police force. But ever since then, I have pivoted to the IT field and been an IT manager at MNI Direct, where I make IT decisions that improve the experience for both our external customers through Sana e-commerce, as well as our internal users through Microsoft Business Central.
Oh, and you had your background in economics, then military, if I understood correctly.
Yep.
But where is the relation with IT coming, or the passion and the enthusiasm? Did it start already early, or when did that start?
Yeah, so I've always dabbled in computers ever since I was 13, and but I've always kind of wanted to do other things throughout my life. Like especially I wanted to do the military and police just to kind of challenge myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of put IT just wasn't like in my forethought. It was just like a hobby of mine. But as I left in both the police and military, I wanted to do something that I had a talent at and a knack at and understanding, and something I can build a foundation and grow with. So that's why I became the IT manager, and that's how I got into the IT field. I worked my way up from technical support, like help desk, and went all the way up to IT manager currently, where I'm at today. Nice. And I hope to go even further in the future.
Yeah, well, I really liked also that you really walked the way up. Also, I always say in my own team, let's say the people that are doing customer service or support, they are most of the time your best, managers or product owners or people that can run the business because they have, first-hand experience on, troubles, issues, and solutions, and how to deal with that. So that's awesome. And now you're working at MNI Direct. So can you elaborate a little bit more? Explain what's the company doing in general?
Yep. So MNI Direct, we were founded in 2007. So we've been in business for 16 years. We started off as a one person, one truck, selling plants out the back of the box truck. So to get to today has been a blessing, we couldn't have done it without Tim, our the general manager, building the foundation for today. But so what we do is we provide the professional landscape trade with the quality plant material and hard lines that they need for their jobs. Right, we're a solution provider. We help them source the plants, that they need to complete the projects. So pretty much anything that like you see at a sports stadium, university, and even in movie sets, plants, we MNI Direct, we actually provide that to our customers. We're currently opening up in 4 locations right now. So we have Marietta, Peachtree Corners, Piedmont, and Rock Hill, South Carolina. And we just pride ourselves on being a one-stop source and having vast availability and the very best in customer service.
And are you producing, let's say, growing plants yourself as well, or are you more like a distributor?
So MNI Direct we don't grow plants ourselves, but our parent company, McCorkle Nurseries, they have a ton of land out in Deering, Georgia, and they're a nursery and they grow plants out there. But we're mainly kind of the distributor, and we get a bunch of vendors and we just kind of gather everything together and distribute it among our customers.
Awesome. And your typical customer, maybe for the listeners, are, I think, contractors or companies that are doing projects at the, like stadiums and other stuff you just mentioned, right?
Yes. So our customers, it ranges from, like a mom and pop, just a one person, just a guy with a mower, to
do gardening.
$1 business that has contracts throughout the entire United States. So we serve a range of customers.
Wow. Nice. Hey, and then you started with B2B commerce, and as we all know, we talked about that a lot in this show, B2B e-commerce can be complex or can get very complex quickly, right? So what makes, I always love to ask this question, and our customers or people that are joining the show, but what makes B2B e-commerce for MNI Direct complex or very complex? Can you elaborate a little bit about that?
Yes. So with us, one of our huge challenges in B2B commerce is, since we have a huge variety of plants from various vendors and serving all our customers that have a wide range of needs. You got some customers that, hey, I just need 3 plants for this job. And then you have some customers that we need over 800 plants for this job. And we have to serve all these different markets that have different, almost different weather hardiness zones. That's what we call it in the US. And like, you have to fulfill that, and different markets have different likes of what plants they want. You're not going to be selling a palm tree up north. So that's like,
no, they'll grow there.
Yeah. But yeah, I think one of our biggest challenges, especially in the e-commerce space, is getting the items in, getting everything updated, and getting our inventory in line.
Yeah, I can imagine, of course, with inventory, right? That is also very dependent on what's being, maybe seasonality, or what's being grown, or et cetera, et cetera. Is there something that you can share about that? Is that how that does typically work?
Can you say that again?
Yeah, so about the inventory, let's say you say it can have some complexity. I can imagine like some plants do not grow in a certain season or are not available. So how do you deal with that complexity? Is that you are something that you are managing in Business Central, let's say, so to keep track on all the different items in the inventory?
Yes. So pretty much our sales associates, we train them to learn how to substitute plant materials that are that we're not able to source with customers. And usually customers are pretty aware of what plants can be grown in what areas. So that definitely helps out a ton.
Understood. Hey, so you, when you started with MNI Direct, or when you joined the company, was there already B2B e-commerce out there, or were you starting with, digitizing the company? How is that history?
So when I started out at MNI Direct, we were using an on-premises system called NCR Counterpoint, and we were attempting to have a B2B e-commerce.
Yeah.
And the challenges with what we had before we switched to Business Central was that there was it's getting the connection, getting all the data in sync.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a huge connection, especially when Counterpoint, it was tied to a central main server at one central location. And if that location went down, everything went down, including the website. So that was a huge challenge of getting everything up and running and getting it to be, how would I even say, getting it to be marketable and like having full confidence, like, hey, I guarantee you this works 24 hours, all days of the year. That was a complexity to it. And then just even trying to update everything. Like even, I recall it was even changing the footer on the website. It took 24 hours because I didn't have access to the back end. So we had to use a third-party vendor, and they had to update that, and that was the least amount of time for response. So
you were not really having the tools to change something yourself, and besides that, it was pretty hard to, from your ERP or the system that you were using to make integration. Yeah, that's often being, let's say, underestimated or not even understood, or when they're starting. When the IT managers take the job or take the challenge, saying, "Hey, yeah, maybe we should digitize our way of working or going, do digital commerce." And with B2B, then there comes this complexity that you want to have this pricing or inventory in real time or near real time. Anyway, there needs to be this connection or integration, and if you then are going to start that investigating or making it happen with a vendor or whatsoever, you run into 1,000 troubles to make that happen. And that's also, I think that's still the foundation why Sana was born to solve one of the things that we are solving. But this is one of the major things that we took that challenge and take another architectural direction to mitigate this. So you not only switched to Sana, but you also actually went to Business Central, right? As a new ERP system. So how was that journey actually? Did you move fully to the cloud, or is it still on-premise version of Business Central?
So we've moved fully to the cloud with Business Central.
Yeah. And how did you deal with? Did you have customizations or specifics in your previous systems, or how could you bring that over to Business Central as a cloud solution? Was it easy, or was it a difficult transition?
It was. I would say it was medium. It wasn't. We didn't have too much. We didn't have like 20 years worth of data. So that was easy. That made it easier, and mainly I wouldn't say the hardest part, but where we kind of stumbled into difficulties was after when we went live. Just because due to the amount of customizations that we experienced when we were live, we weren't able to we were able to predict like how this would function, because you can only run so many scenarios to make this work. That, hey, like, I think this works, and then it's like this is like a completely out of the blue scenario, and you don't know what's going on, and just getting on top of those customizations and getting that fixed. That was mainly the bigger challenge, but we took pretty good steps on ensuring all our data was clean for loading, and just coming up with a roadmap and a plan of what we were going to have to implement by what dates. And that definitely made the project of transitioning to Business Central very smooth.
Yeah, great. Yeah, the reason why I'm asking is I think you are, let's say, front runner in that sense, or a company that already made the step. I'm talking to customers a lot, also in this podcast, that still need to make this step. So they are running still ERP installations on premise or in a data center, but that are not, let's say, 100% cloud or SaaS. software as a service kind of solutions. And yeah, all the big vendors have now new products or variants of their products that are, living 100% in the cloud and are a software as a service. But to transition from, let's say, something which is on premise and has a huge history of data is also hard. And it's not only, they're not even talking about adding B2B e-commerce there, but just getting your ERP and your processes, let's say, into a system that can continuously scale or grow with you, which is I would say a solution like Business Central. So that's awesome. That's great that you have achieved it already. And yeah, while listening carefully to you, I think there are already two great tips that you shared. One is, I think, you keeping your data clean, or at least being aware of that when people are using a system, the quality of data can rapidly go down because people make mistakes or errors are there. That's just by nature. But keeping an eye on it, or just accept that this is the case that you mentioned, and trying to keep it as best as possible is already a good step, because that makes these steps later on better. We also see that at Sana all the time, also for our internal systems. Yeah, we are also not always having everything perfect, right? There is sometimes systems that, if you do not are aware of this fact, that if people are using a system to do some work, that there will also be problems with your data, that it will get dirty at some point in time. So that's good to keep an eye on that. And the second thing I think what you mentioned was interesting. Maybe you were lucky because there was not that big of a history, but it could also be a tip, of course, for companies that see the migration as a big thing. You could also say, okay, we just take the last 3 or 5 years or something, and the rest we will put in the reporting or so. But it can make the transition to a new system. Hey, you not always have to bring the whole history, right? It's
Correct.
Companies exist for 40 years or 30 years in an old Microsoft environment or SAP or something. Yeah, not always the case that you need to keep that. So that can help as well. Yeah, awesome.
Yep.
And then you went to you migrated, I believe, from Magento to Sana, right? So but just to clearly understand, so besides the content things that you mentioned were working with a partner, I want to more hear from you on, okay, what challenges did you had in keeping these old systems up to date, right? Pricing updates, for example. What was blocking you, or what was painful there?
In regards to Magento,
Yeah.
or just
So in that combination,
it was just some honestly, uploading and downloading stuff back in, updating prices and Counterpoint. If I did it to the system, it was pretty easy. Now getting that to migrate to the website, that did pose a challenge. Because sometimes you just don't know if the pricing is getting updated. There's not an indicator, and you're not able to, like, one of the best things I really like about Sana is I'm able to impersonate as a customer. Then I get to see the price change like this, and it was just a lot of back and forth and just a lot of
manual work.
Like everything had to be like scheduled tasks. Like it was so fragile that the connection could just break, and you wouldn't know for a month until a customer points it out, and then you're like, which part of the process did it break in? And then you got to work your way backwards, and it was a challenge. But with Sana, I mean, smooth. You get an email, hey, this task failed. See where it went wrong, and especially with the customer service and also the knowledge base, the knowledge book, made things really smooth.
Oh, nice to hear. I think you had only had a 3-month implementation, which is in general for B2B rather quick. So I just wanted to know what was the trick there, right? Was it because you had already a lot of data there available, or was it just easier with Sana to connect, or can you elaborate a little bit on that topic?
Oh yeah. So basically, how I was talking about since we set up Business Central correctly, we planned everything out, we mapped everything out. Everyone knew where the data was. Everyone knew what data went into to Business Central. Just taking your time. I mean, we spent a year getting Business Central, implementing Business Central, and just because of we took our time, we were methodical with it. We were not in a rush. We didn't want to rush it, but we definitely had a date that we definitely had a date that we were targeting for. That's what made the turnaround so fast, because the heavy lifting is already done. The data's already there. It's working. So we've definitely had about 3 months of working data already in Business Central. And then, especially with the implementation team at Sana and their help, that definitely made the transition super smooth, because you're just getting everything just linked up. Everything started to flow. And once all the data was flowing out, we were able to, determine what needs to be shown on the website, what data we need to use. And that's what led to the very fast implementation. And it was also because we're not doing the buying part just yet, and we're still allowing customers to quote on the website, just because we're still figuring out the process of how customers can buy items online, and how we can get that delivered to them without getting our inventory in control.
Yeah, I think what you mentioned here, something very valuable, is that that let's say B2B e-commerce can you can speed up the process if you have, for example, your processes and stuff already well thought about and managed or implemented in a system. And you also had a new ERP implementation that helps as well. But still, I think that there's a very valued lesson there that if you have that just in order, and then with tools like Sana that embrace, let's say, ERP integration, and a specialized team, we can just pull all that investment that you have already done, and we can get it out of that box really quickly. That speeds up, and that's also the evidence that you have with MNI Direct, because 3 months is really also at our customer base, it's a real quick implementation. So job well done there. What are you doing, let's say, so to promote or to make sure that customers are ordering online, or you have maybe also internal sales people that are working there as well? So just explain a little bit how adoption is going and how you keep growing it.
Okay, so we're getting increased customers. So ever since we launched back in July of 2022, we're averaging about 1,000 unique users on the website a month since launch. Wow. But I have not seen the user count. So this will be our first spring, which will be like a surge season. It's always a surge for us. So I'm actually excited to see what we're going to do in the springtime. So we can start tracking the numbers for this time. But we pretty much have a very quick turnaround time for when they submit the quotes.
Okay.
It gets processed. So pretty much the customer will submit a quote online, and it'll go to one of the branches. And a sales associate at that branch will give that customer a call and verify whatever's on the plant list, and if they need to make substitutions or whatnot. And that turnaround time is 5 minutes. So the customer knows that, hey, we're right now we're actively monitoring the quoting. So when they submit it, they get a response. It's not just sitting there.
Yeah.
And that's what makes, I think, just through word of mouth, it's increasing adoption of the website. And another project we are in the process of wanting to implement is also Sana Pay. Oh, wow. And that will definitely help out a good majority of our customers. since they'll be able to pay their bills online, that will just lead to the adoption of quoting even more, because you can do everything online. You don't have to get on a phone call somewhere.
Yeah. Maybe just for the listeners to explain, SanaPay is one of our products as well that solves everything around payment. Right? It's our own B2B optimized payment method that we have created. I think it's launched. We launched it last year. Let's say with a big bang. Before we were already testing out with some beta customers. It is now shipped with almost every customer. And what it does, it can help with doing online payments, and once again optimizing for B2B. Why do you need to think about that? Is, for example, that you can do things like pay by email, so that you can send a payment request via email to your boss or something that if you cannot approve a payment yourself or an invoice payment yourself. So that's really working well in B2B, obviously. Other things we are working on is that you can keep your credit cards or your cards into your My Account section in B2B. You have most of the time as a company a lot of cards, so that's helping out there. And last but not least, you can also do multi-card payments. And as you mentioned, Jason, it's not only about just paying the orders that are being purchased online, but with Sana, since we are so integrated with the ERP, we can also look at invoices from online and offline orders, right, Jason? And you can pay them, the outstanding invoices, you can pay them also online, which is, I think, a great way also to drive adoption. It's one of the, I would say, one of the initiatives we also propose to our customers if they want to increase adoption, that this is also one of the tricks to do, right? That it's to make it easy to do payments, or make it easy to do invoice payments, and that's what you're adopting. So that's cool. Thanks for sharing that. And you're now only focusing, as you mentioned, on quoting, right? So there is still some manual work in that process, right? As you mentioned, maybe that is the complexity of your business. Do you think, or are you envisioning that everything will be automated, let's say in the near future, let's say, so that it's not only about quoting, but also placing direct orders without any human touch, let's say, so from your sales organization? Or is your business probably always require some work in that extent?
So with that, I love the question, by the way. With that, we are not going to replace, fully automate everything, just because sometimes plants that the customer wants, no one grows it anymore.
Okay. Yeah.
So we're always going to need that human touch just to verify, but just to verify what's being ordered, but pretty much automating everything else from
searching and quoting, that can be done. Yeah. No, totally clear. And this is also, I think, a great lesson or tip, because people think in B2B e-commerce, when they are transitioning, that they say, everything needs to be digitalized or everything, and otherwise we cannot do it. But there are so many ways in between and so many parts of the process that you can also move to an e-commerce or B2B e-commerce storefront. And then just the last part is still maybe a human touch, but then you at least solve all the rest, right? And automate that, and people can spend that time of the recurring or repeating questions, they can spend more wisely. Yeah, so how much time does it cost you or your team now to maintain that B2B e-commerce platform? So how much time do you spend on it on a weekly or daily basis?
Daily, on a daily basis, super minimum. We've automated a good amount of the contact process, especially the first contact process. So we were able to use like Microsoft Forms and I think coming up with a Power Flow. So there's really not a lot of minimum maintenance that we're doing. I would just advise getting the ERP set up correctly, and that leads to minimum maintenance on the e-commerce side, because you have a strong foundation to build off of. But even updating images and attributes to the website. If we do a mass upload, cleaning the data, roughly about 2 to 3 hours. That's
really quick. Yeah, that's great to hear. That's why we are building the product for, right? So to help IT managers like you solve this kind of, or let's say reduce this amount of time, because I also know the other side of the coin, or if we listen to, prospects that have been struggling, that's spending, days, weeks, or so much time to get these systems up to date or in sync and solving problems all the time. So that's horrible. In terms of, let's say the salespeople, do you, what is the response from your internal salespeople? So do they like or promote the tool as well? Are they using it as well? You mentioned, I think, in this conversation already a little bit like the feature that we have this to substitute a customer, for example, or to represent the customer. Is that being used a lot?
Yes, it is. They're able to see what the customer's seeing, and they're able to just provide that customer service experience to the customers that they are having issues with the website. It was easy to train everyone on how to use it, so that's what led to the very quick deployment time with Sana. So it's almost, it doesn't take a lot of brain power to say, hey, this is how we need to solve this.
Listeners to understand, so representing customers for us at Sanas, it's a feature we have to develop, I think, a couple of years back, or maybe even longer, already in the beginning of the product, but that you can as a sales agent or as a representative of the company, can be also support, by the way. You can view the web store through the eyes of the customer you are serving, right? So that you see, based on the customer you're selecting, their pricing, their information, their assortments, and all that stuff. And that's a must-have, I think, in B2B, because as you mentioned, assortments and products and pricing is different per customer, right? You do not want to ship probably or present palm trees to a company that is located in the north, because that will not grow there. Is that also your favorite B2B feature in the product, or do you have another one to share as well?
I'm looking forward to Sana Pay, because we were looking at third-party integrations with that.
Yeah.
And that would have been a challenge,
Yeah.
And just going what we went over and all the features that we discussed, I was like, this might lead to more than 1,000 users a month. This might lead to the use of the website fully. And
I'm happy that you shared that one, Jason. And it's also one of my favorite products or features or feature groups that we have. We are working hard on, and that we recently, or let's say last year, released. So adoption we talked about. Maybe as the last part of this conversation, any tips for IT leaders that are going to do replatforming to new software? I think we shared already a couple of things, but maybe you can share maybe some other learnings, or repeat a couple of learnings that we can take from the B2B e-commerce project that you have led. So, how would you answer that question?
Honestly, being curious definitely led to it, kind of being curious and creative, especially with and also taking a step back and thinking in the customer's shoes.
Yeah,
I think that's what kind of leads to, not innovations, but you can use the website in a different way. And so, copying others, you can come up with what makes MNI Direct unique, right? How are we the solutions provider? Why come to MNI Direct? And if you kind of just take a step back, think about what works with your company, and how it aligns with the identity of your company, I think it'll allow you to utilize Sana, just for example, in a more robust way, and it allows you to serve your customers better by having that type of mindset.
Nice. I like that. And I am always curious as well, so I always love to learn from customers like you, and the great stories that you have shared, or and the work the company is doing. And besides that, also in this conversation that we had, all the practical tips that you had on keeping your data clean, making sure that if you have a good setup of your ERP, then probably that will help you in going digital later on. So that is all really, really valuable, and thank you for that. Yeah, last question I always ask is we're passing through most of the time a question from a previous guest. So the previous guest was Per Bay. He is a consultant, actually from Sweden. He's already in the ERP business for a long time. And we had a great talk together. But one of the question he had for the next guest, which is you, is what do you think about OpenAI or these technologies around AI, these tools that will that change how B2B buyers are going to buy? And if yes, how it's going to change? So what is your opinion or vision about that topic?
Oh, definitely. I think it'll definitely change B2B. I just, for a quick example, I think it will, just a really quick one that I've been just playing around with ChatGPT lately, is just better customer experience. Like, instead of having an FAQ on the website, you have that AI chat box. It just allows for more personal interaction with the customer. And instead of relying on kind of scripted prompts, it's almost like you're talking to the sales representative, right? And you're able to generate a more acceptable as well as an accurate answer for the customer. So I think that, especially with that, it'll definitely allow for a more enjoyable user experience. Like, hey, where do I go pay the bill? Then it pretty much, hey, this is where you would do it, and it'll spit out the link to go to the billing section of there. How do I increase my credit? This is where you would go. How do I make an account? It'll just link you to that. And I think because of that, you're able to come up with tailored solutions using OpenAI, and it'll also allow you for better insight onto what the customers want, since it's able to compile the data more efficiently. So yeah, I definitely think it will vastly improve B2B buyers.
For sure. I agree. It's so powerful. It's getting so powerful, and maybe even in the future, we never know. But maybe in the future it will even solve the part that we now not only can do quotes but also full orders, because it can mitigate all those questions, saying, hey, there's some special case, etc., etc. Last question from my side is actually the same. Do you have a question for our next guest?
I'll just say, what tools can we utilize today that allow us to take that next step to be fully AI for B2B? That's my question. Like we're at step 1. How do we get to step 2, step 3, step 4?
That's a great one. So we can continue on this topic. Yeah, it's a hot topic. So that is great too. I will definitely share that one. And for now, I really would love to thank you, Jason. And it was a great conversation. And thank you for being a Sana customer. And thanks for sharing all those tips on transitioning, let's say, from physical to digital commerce, and all the replatforming things you have done as well. So keep up the good work, I would say.
Thank you.
Thank you.